Just see if I can still share screen.
There you go.
Yeah,
Workarounds work.
incredible. Awesome.
Just for a minute, just introduce you.
Yes. Are we ready to start? Is it, well, we still have 8 minutes. Are people, there's anybody coming from Zoom yet? Maybe we just wait. Yeah, we'll wait for the participants to come also, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they do show up.
They come after.
Does this microphone work? Is the microphone on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to test it?
Testing, testing. Do you guys hear me? Not through the microphone? Nope. Now you hear me?
You gotta be a little closer. Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, now I can tell it's on.
And if it's something complex,
Yes.
majority is not majority, but yeah, French will be okay too, in between.
You want me to speak French?
No, not French, but shall we talk here? How many people speak English?
Yeah. Does everybody understand English? No?
Some of people are francophone here.
So if something difficult, then yeah.
We could do our best to translate whatever.
But
Yeah.
if anything goes wrong, I'll be here.
Okay. Thank you for,
It was not as clear as it was before we put like a bunch of quiz list versus all that, and then it will put everything here.
thank you very much for your help.
So appreciate it. You're welcome. I'm glad to help. Oh.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think people enjoy Facebook thing. I mean, they want people.
Yeah, but the strangers. No, not on that, not on that, on this one. That's what.
Oh, no.
Because that one you have connected over the. on this one. Vertically or horizontally?
Oh.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Brandy, welcome.
Thank you. I could take my video off.
I'm sorry.
I said I could switch my video off.
I don't hear you well.
Okay, I said I could switch my video off. But I'm here.
Pardon me? Her video was on. Yeah. I think we could begin, Mira. I think we could begin. We could begin. Do
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
you want the microphone to start? Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Today, our guest speaker is Mr. Eric Antoinette. Eric,
Maybe speak more in the mic.
Eric, we know since long, and he is a long time traveler of a spiritual path. I think this is a very good introduction to him, and I will hand over the mic to him. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Mira. Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here today. Can you all hear me all right? Awesome, awesome. So thank you for joining here live. Thank you for everyone here who's on Zoom, who's joining the talk today. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your attention. And so today, I want this as much as possible, not to just be an educational monologue talk of me here. I want this to be educational. I want it to be interactive. And I want it to be experiential, meaning I want to give you an experience of how we can use our relationships to move from lower vibrational energies to higher vibrational energies. So don't need the mic. You guys can hear me okay? Higher. Closer. Got it. How's that? Better? Awesome. So as I was saying, today I don't want this just to be a monologue, an educational talk of what I'm going to bring. I want it as much as possible for us to ask questions. If you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to just raise your hand or jump in on Zoom, right in the chat. if you have questions. So it could be interactive, but also there will be an experiential element of this. You'll be able to experience how we could use our relationships to raise our vibration, to raise our awareness, and to raise our consciousness. So the role of relationships, this is what we're here to talk. It is how our emotions affect our relationships. What's the role that emotions have on our relationships that I want to talk about today. And I want to be able to give you an experience of how we can use our emotions to raise our vibration. So I don't know if any of you had an experience of parents who were really good at helping you manage your emotions. So if you had parents who were really good at helping you manage your emotions, maybe you could raise your hand and tell me, how great they were. Because I know personally, I did not have that experience with my parents. And so when I talk about relationships, I just want to be clear that it's not just our personal relationships that I'm talking about. It's not just our intimate relationship with our spouse or our husband or our wife. It's really any relationship that we could use to help us elevate our consciousness. So that could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be a coworker, it could be any relationship. And so as I talk about this today, I want you to think about what is the most challenging relationship that you have currently in your life. So who is the one who kind of triggers you the most emotionally? Because that's where the growth potential is. That's where we have really the ability to go from our lower level emotions to higher states of peace and harmony and love and compassion. So think about that person who challenges you right now. And if you know who that is and you're on Zoom and you want to just put that in the chat, you can do that. So when we're, your mom, moms can be challenging, especially for girls. So when we think about emotions, there's really two spectrums of the ways I think that we've been taught how to deal with our emotions in a relationship. And the first one is to suppress them. And so things that were said to us, by our parents usually were, don't be sad, don't be angry. And maybe you can relate to this, like what, even in the audience here, if you want to tell me, like, what did your parents tell you about emotions? How did they tell you to manage them? Anybody? Yeah. Just deal with it, suck it up. Right. So that's what I call the one end of the spectrum where emotions are not to be felt, right? They're not good, they're negative. Don't be sad, don't be angry, suck up whatever it is you're feeling, get over it, deal with it. So that's the pushing down of emotions. And then on the other hand, on the other spectrum of emotions is acting them out. So rather than just being in the middle where we just get to feel them, we act them out. We act out our anger. So we get aggressive. We talk to our partner or our parents or our kids in an aggressive way. We become angry with them. So we have on the one hand suppressing, and then on the other hand, we have becoming. And so neither of those ways are terribly effective ways of dealing with our emotions. And like I said, most of us did not have great role models as parents to teach us how to deal with them and how to just actually be with them and feel them. And I'll give a little example from my own family. So my parents used to argue all the time. And my father was in the Army, and he was of the belief that the louder you talked, the righter you were. So I don't know if any of you subscribe to that philosophy, but in his style, when he would yell, he would raise his voice. And sometimes it's like even thinking, if I speak louder or yell louder, maybe you're going to hear me. That was kind of his philosophy, or the louder I am, the righter I am. And obviously that did not go well with my mother. And so my mother was often triggered by that kind of behavior. And they would end up not speaking for sometimes hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. And when it got really bad, sometimes for a month long. And so this had obviously an effect on the kids in the family. I'm the youngest of three. And so there was a lot of tension in the home. My father was very sad because my mother wouldn't speak to him. My mother was very upset and angry because of the way that she was spoken to. My father would come to me and ask me to go speak to my mother to see if I could get her to speak to him. So this would happen at a very young age, 6, 7 years old. He would ask me to go speak to my mother and have her come talk to him. And so my mother's usual response was, well, you know, when dad says he's sorry, I will speak to him again. And so that kind of introduced the concept of, you know, I'm right, he's wrong. And when I would go back to my dad to tell him that that's, you know, what he wanted, well, he didn't feel like he did anything wrong. So he thought he was right and she was wrong. And that just led to a stalemate. And so you can kind of see how when we don't manage our emotions and we don't manage our anger well, the kind of ripple effects that it has on the whole family. So, you know, in my case, I started to try to become a fixer, a savior, a people pleaser. I even had at one point resentment towards my father for the way he would speak, resentment towards my mother, and anger towards her because she wasn't speaking to my dad. And even started really to feel like there was hatred towards her because it was just so uncomfortable to be dealing with this in the home. So this brings me to the place where we get to consider relationships sacred. So in a relationship, there's me, and in a relationship, there's you. And there's what we call, or what I like to call, the relational space, which is sacred space. And this sacred space is often polluted by things like anger. And I want to actually bring up, I'm just going to share my screen here and briefly show you a talk from Heidi Schleifer. She was a woman who appeared on a summit that my partner Brandy and I did called Mastering Sacred Relationships. She talks about the relational space that's between us and how we pollute it. So this is a brief little 3-minute talk that I want to share with you to just really identify what sacred space is in a relationship. Have a listen.
Our relationship moves is we cannot be or be or even be a family between the two of us. It moves. Then we move together and say, God did not learn our house. If you don't learn to take responsibility for the two to live together, we will have to the way we're going to do one another. And I think not people that have seen my feelings, like they do, but I feel like what is that? People and when speaking of how we relate to the suffering in speech, and we become more. It's really going to be something of the state becomes serious. And we react to the dangerous. And when we react, we don't know it, we trust, we reacting to the areas withdrawing. And once those two reactions come together, as they want them to be the bigger voice and the heart together to the conclusion that they are co-located in the relations. How do you think it's possible for the space between us, which is sacred as that it's possible. We think it's possible, but it's totally done by passing the bridge to the world of the other and really our soul presence again.
So I'll talk a little bit more about the bridge a little bit later on, or how we clean up the sacred space between us. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on, but I actually want to just go in a little bit deeper into how we actually pollute the space and the ways that we pollute the space. And as soon as I can get to here. Yeah, you'll see that. So there was a study done by John Gottman, and John Gottman was, or is, I'm not sure he's still practicing. He is a couples therapist who looked at many different couples, particularly the ones that broke up, the ones that didn't stay together. And he analyzed what was in their relational space that did not work, that caused the breakups. And so this is an exercise in awareness. So I want you to all, as you listen to this, just realize without judgment, how is it that we are polluting the relational space that we're in? So the first way that we pollute the relational space that we're in is through criticisms, through blaming our partner, or not necessarily our partner. As I said, it could be any relationship that you're in. We blame the others. You know, you don't take out the garbage. You never compliment me. You know, any kind of criticism that you can think of, you can actually add them in the chat, whatever ones you use, you can put them in the chat if you're on Zoom. So criticisms is one of the ways that we pollute the space. We attack our partners, we complain about them. And that usually leads to defensiveness. And so when we criticize somebody, our natural tendency is to want to defend ourselves. So we deflect the blame that we are feeling, and we blame it on our partner, or we blame it on a circumstance, whatever it is. We don't take responsibility. So again, this is how all of the crap gets stirred in our personal relationships. Third way is called stonewalling. And this is one of my favorites, one of the ones I use. So tuning out. So when we're in an actual fight, I may actually just check out and actually not even like be in my body or listening to what my partner has to say. So not listening is even different than that. It's like, if my partner wants to tell me something in an argument, I may hear part of it and my brain may be thinking about my response to what they had to say. So I'm not deeply listening to whoever it is that I'm with. I'm actually formulating a response already, ready to respond, and maybe even interrupting them as they're speaking. And then there's my mother's favorite, which is the silent treatment, which again is just, it's a form of manipulation. Like if I stay silent long enough, I will bend your will to my will and get you to do what it is I want. And that may work for a short period of time, but usually does not work for a long period of time. It doesn't affect permanent change. The worst one on the list here is contempt. And so when John Gottman saw contempt in a relationship, he could almost guarantee that that relationship was going to end. And so contempt means, yes. You don't hear me well? How about now? Right in the microphone. Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So contempt is things like name calling. You know, you're an idiot, you're a moron, you're a loser, any kind of derogatory name calling. Dismissive laughter, so laughing at your partner, belittling them, eye rolling, are all means that we use to show contempt for our partner. It's a real lack of respect for who they are. So whenever he saw any of these, he called them the four horsemen: criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. Whenever he saw those in a relationship, he was pretty much sure that it was going to end. So even before we get to what are called these four horsemen, we have to understand what are the emotions that are playing on them, because it's really when we're triggered, when our emotions are stirred, that we fall into these four horsemen. And it's because we don't manage our emotions well. We're either repressing them or we're becoming them, that we end up in a situation where we are acting out in these particular ways, in these four ways. So what are our emotions? So I'm going to ask a question first. Are emotions good? Is anger good? If you believe anger is good, raise your hand. I'm asking, is anger good? Raise your hand. If you believe anger is good. 1, 2. Awesome. If you believe anger is bad, raise your hand. Okay, awesome. So I'll get to whether anger is good or bad or neither in a moment. So anger can include, so there's basic agreement that the emotions fall into 4 categories: anger, sadness, fear, and happiness. So anger would also include apathy, shame, guilt, and hatred. Sadness would include things like grief, depression, and possible suicidal tendencies. Fear includes anxiety, confusion, jealousy, envy, panic, and terror. And happiness includes contentment and joy. So those are the basic emotions that when they get stirred, and believe it or not, even contentment and joy can lead to an argument, because somebody may actually be triggered that you're too happy and it bothers them. So any of these things can stir our emotions and bring us back into those 4 categories that I was showing before: defensiveness, criticism, stonewalling, and contempt. So now back to the point: are emotions good or bad? So I'm gonna tell a little story. There are 2 boys in school, much like we're in right now in this high school, who are taking an exam, and both of them answered all of the questions in exactly the same way. And of course, both of them got a B. The first boy is really happy with his B. He studied really hard. He was proud of himself, got a B. Second boy was angry and disappointed with his B. He felt worthless and ashamed of his B. So what does it mean? Anybody? What does it mean? Are emotions good or bad? Emotions are good. I'm going to argue that emotions are neither good or bad, and events are neither good nor bad. How we feel about something is simply how we feel about it. It's neutral. As this example shows, one person could feel really good about their mark, another person can feel really bad about it. So it's really telling us that emotions are neutral. I'll tell another story. Some of you may have heard this story. It's about a farmer and his son who have a horse. They have one single horse. It's a working horse on the farm. Anybody heard this story? No? So one day the horse runs away, and the neighbor discovers that the horse runs away, and he comes to the farmer and he says, wow, that's really unlucky. I'm so sorry that you lost your horse. And the farmer says, well, unlucky, maybe so, maybe not. A few days later, the horse returns and brings with it 6 other horses. And now he has 7 working horses. And the neighbor comes back to him and says, wow, you're really lucky. You know, you now have 6 or 7 working horses. And the farmer says, maybe so, maybe not. And a few days later, the son gets on one of the horses because they're wild horses and he needs to break them. And he's riding on the horse and he falls off and he breaks his leg. And his neighbor comes to the farmer and says, that's so unlucky. And I'm sorry that your son got hurt. And unlucky, he says, well, maybe so, maybe not. And a few days later, the army comes to his door, knocks on the door, and wants to recruit his son to take him into the army. But the person in the army sees that the son has broken leg and can't recruit him. So what's the moral of all of these little stories put together? Are emotions good or bad? Are events good or bad? Neither, right? So you're shaking your head. Events are neutral and our emotions are neutral. And so in thinking about events being neutral, take a step back and just think about even the boys who are doing the exam. So where do emotions come from? They come from our belief system. So one boy believed he was worthless. Our belief system leads to our thoughts, and our thoughts lead to our emotions. And our emotions lead to our words and actions. I'm going to say that again. Belief systems are the driver of our thoughts. Our thoughts drive our emotions, and our emotions lead to our words and actions. So this is great news because it really means that we have much more control over our emotions than we might believe. Because how many of you have been in a situation where you've lost control of your emotions? Only 5 of you. Amazing. I could say that many times in my life, I've lost control of my emotions, and it even happened quite recently. So as much as I get to get up here and talk to you about it, I'm also human, and it still happens that I lose control of my emotions. But there's great opportunity in learning that our emotions and events are neutral. And I want to tell you that because here you're going to see a slide. This is from David Hawking's book, Power versus Force. And neutrality is super important in understanding that we have control over our emotions. So if you see here on the left, you see a column that has all of the different emotions that we might feel. And on the right, David Hawkins was able to measure their vibration. And as you can see, the lower level vibrations of guilt, shame, apathy, grief range from 20 to 75 on the vibrational scale. As an example, Mother Teresa, she vibrated at the level of 600. Peace, the level of peace was 600. The level of enlightenment is between 700 and 1,000. And so why is neutrality important? Neutrality is here at 250. See 250 here. Neutrality is important because neutrality is the place where we get to shift. And so when we realize that events are neutral and emotions are neutral, we come to neutrality automatically. So we get to make a major shift in our vibration when we can just realize and be aware that whatever's happening just is, it's neutral. And how we think about it, how we perceive it, how we respond to it can shift our vibration. And so when we realize it's neutral, we're already seeing an amazing shift in our vibration from the lower 20s to 75s, all the way up to 250, just by becoming neutral. And then from neutrality, we can shift even more greatly. And the way we do that is by being able to shift into the higher vibrations of love and joy. And I'll get into how we can do that a little bit later. Before that, it's important to know that when we're stuck in our emotions, particularly anger, you still hear me okay? Yeah. When we're stuck in our emotions, particularly anger, we shift from the parasympathetic system to the sympathetic system. Are you all aware of the nervous system and the two shifts, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic? Yes, awesome. So when we're angry, we shift into sympathetic, which is the fight, flight, or freeze places in our lives. And this is important to understand because when we shift there, it is so difficult to be neutral, right? It is very, very difficult to be neutral when we're activated. So when we're angry, we either want to fight, so we want to become our emotions. So remember, I was talking before about whether we're suppressing or becoming. So when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, when we're in fight, we want to become our emotions. We want to act out. We want to say hurtful things. We want to do hurtful things. We may even want to get physical. And so our sympathetic system is activated. And so we need ways to calm ourselves. And so we could either be in fight, we could either be in flee, which again, flee could just be tuning out, right? It could just be, it could be escaping, wanting to run away, or we could be in freeze. We could be in fear because we don't want we could be in fear of our own anger, or we could be in fear of the anger of whoever it is that we're dealing with, and we could freeze. So we need ways out. And that's the most important, one of the most important parts of this talk is to realize that when we're in that state, when we're in the sympathetic state, we need ways to come back into the parasympathetic state, so that the nervous system can relax, because we can't get back to neutrality and we can't get to the higher vibrations until our bodies are able to relax. So how do we do that? One of the ways to realize that we can do it is to own our feelings. So I like to say, claim it, tame it, and name it. So claim it means be responsible. Know that everything that's happening is neutral. And we own our feelings. We're responsible for how we feel because they come from our own belief systems. They come from our own thoughts. So we have to be in that place of responsibility. And then we also have to allow ourselves to feel whatever is going on. So again, back to the beginning of the talk, are we suppressing what we're feeling? Because if we are, then there's no way to actually learn from anger. So anger is just an energy, like anything else, it's neutral, but it has a gift for us. It has a message. There's something that anger wants to tell us. There's something, it is an actual energy. I call it the energy of change. And when we're listening to it, we can actually understand what it wants to tell us and how it wants us to shift our way of being. And so there are some preventative ways that, thank you for coming. There are some preventative ways that we can manage our nervous system to keep it in the parasympathetic state. And one of them, many of you were just here for yoga practice, which is fantastic. And so why do we do yoga? One of the main reasons I do yoga is to manage my nervous system. And how does it work? So in yoga, we are putting ourselves in uncomfortable positions, much like we do in life. We maybe not purposely, but in yoga, we're purposely putting ourselves in uncomfortable positions, which raises the stress level of our body and starts to activate the sympathetic nervous system. Maybe we start to feel a shortness of breath, and then we are consciously breathing and relaxing. So it's training us. Yoga is actually training us to activate our nervous system, to shift it into sympathetic system, and then to consciously learn how to shift back into the parasympathetic system. So it's great when we can actually take, we talk about in yoga, being able to take yoga off the mat and into our personal life. This is what we mean by taking yoga off the mat and into our personal life. How can we use the tools that we are learning in yoga to actually learn how to calm our nervous system in our daily life? So fabulous that you're all here doing a yoga practice. Second practice, which is preventative, I like to call this, the two preventative measures is a daily meditation practice. And so why meditate? Again, meditate to get in touch with what you feel. If you're feeling angry, it's a great time to meditate. It's a great time to sit and just be with your anger, feel your anger, and listen to what it has to tell you. Because there is a message behind it. There is an energy behind it that is asking you to shift in some way. And so meditation also, when you're focused on the third eye, the forehead center, it activates the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible, that area of our brain is responsible for judgments. So we get to learn how to respond to anger rather than react to anger. So if you can actually meditate and meditate on your anger, we get to respond rather than react. So that's the benefit of meditation. So when we're actually in it, when we're actually in that place of anger, timeouts are, again, one of the tools that me and my partner use regularly. So when I notice that I'm getting angry, I will communicate to my partner, look, I'm triggered. I'm starting to feel angry. I don't want to be angry with you. I don't want to act out. I don't want to say something that I would regret saying. And I get to take a time out and practice coming back from that sympathetic state to the parasympathetic state. And then I can come back and respond, realize what is the anger trying to tell me? What is it that I want? Because there's probably something I'm not being heard. I may have a request of my partner that I haven't verbalized, but I can come back calmly and verbalize it. Counting is another way. It doesn't work particularly well for me, but it might work well for you. And the reason they say counting works is when you're angry is because it activates the logical part of the brain. So you're not in your emotions. When you're counting 1 to 10, you're actually activating the logical part of your brain, which can just help your anger subside. Sometimes you might need to count to 1,000, depending on how angry you are. All depends. So breath work. So here I'm going to ask us to pause and actually go inside to do some breath work, because breath work is very powerful for relaxing the nervous system. And the particular breath work that I'm talking about is an inhalation of 4 and an exhalation of 8. So I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes. I'm going to ask you also to place one hand on your abdomen and one hand on your chest. One hand on your abdomen, one hand on your chest. And close your eyes. Sorry? No, it doesn't matter. No. So I want you to feel, first of all, what's going on as you breathe. And one of the things that we have learned, or I have learned, is that 80% of us are reverse breathers. What does that mean? A reverse breather is somebody who contracts their abdomen when breathing in instead of expanding their abdomen. So just sense right now, as you breathe in, what's happening with your abdomen, what's happening with your chest. As you breathe in, you should be feeling your abdomen expand and contracting gently back towards your spine as you exhale. And now I want you to consciously do that with a count of 4. So as you breathe in, count to 4, feel your abdomen expand. And if it's not, just gently push it out. And then as you breathe out, count to 8 as you exhale, full 8 exhale. So just do a few breaths like that, breathing in. So imagine yourself like a balloon. When you breathe in, you're filling, your balloon is expanding. And as you breathe out, the balloon empties, your abdomen contracts back towards your spine. And notice what is the effect on your body. A few more breaths, in for 4, out for 8. Yeah, and then gently come back into the room and notice, do you feel a little calmer? You feel a little more peaceful? Yeah. So that's a great exercise to do when your nervous system is engaged. Just want to go back to the chat because someone was asking in the chat the story about the boy. The question is, did the boy really think he was worthless, or was he told that he was worthless and believed the message he was getting? Doesn't really matter. Either way, in the end, he believed it, whether he was told it or whether he believed that about himself from the beginning. It doesn't really matter. That's the belief system he had, and his emotions and thoughts all follow from there. Yeah, so breath work. So other ways to relax the nervous system. Strenuous exercise is one also. So brisk walks also help to release anger and tension in the body. So if you find yourself angry and don't want to be angry with someone else or become angry with someone else, a great way to cool off is through strenuous exercise. Yeah, and just recognize that our emotions are an energy. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not right, they're not wrong, but we can use them actually to transform and raise our energy to another level. So when we, as I said before, when we just recognize that it's not good, bad, right, or wrong, we get to neutrality, which is already a huge shift for most people. So now, does everybody still have somebody in mind, a relationship, their difficult relationship? Do you have your difficult relationship in mind? Who it is? Yes, you do. Raise your hand. No? Having trouble? You get along marvelously with everyone? That's awesome. You should come up here with me and help give the talk. Just think about someone in your family, a friend, a coworker, anybody that you might have had a difficult time with and that you were angry with. When was the last time you were angry? Can you just recall that? And I want you to just, yeah, go ahead.
And I know that this is a problem. And also the thing was when after more of the hours.
So you were angry. Yeah. And do you know what was underneath your anger? Because we use anger as a mask. And usually under anger could be sadness. Yeah, so she was dealing, we have somebody in the audience who was dealing with a coworker who was trying to get her to do a task that I am assuming you did not want to do. And you were feeling angry about it. And so my question is, what's underneath the anger? Because anger is a mask. Anger is a protection. Yes, sir. On the mic. I don't see a setting on the mic. Is this okay? Okay. So underneath anger is another emotion. And sometimes it's grief. It's something we don't want to feel. It's a protection. Anger is a protection that helps us not feel something in the moment. So it could be we feel humiliated, we feel disrespected, we feel sad, we feel grief. It could be a number of different feelings that are underneath. So when we sit with anger, it's really important to also understand what's underneath that feeling. Are you able to recognize what was underneath that? Got it. So disrespected, and underneath that, you felt your own a lack of competency, like a lack of confidence. Yeah, awesome. Great awareness. Great awareness. So yeah, so we're going to sit, you can sit with that. So we're going to actually do a little, like I said, I want this also to be experiential. So everybody can do this exercise together and just kind of remember the last time that you were angry. And just explore a little bit underneath what is underneath that anger. In your case, it was feeling a lack of self-confidence and feeling disrespected by your coworker. And so it's natural that anger will want to come up because it is, like I said, it's the energy of transformation. It wants us to change. Maybe it wants you to step into your confidence. Maybe it wants you to stand up for yourself and be respected by your coworker. But how do we do that in a way that isn't reactive, but is rather responsive rather than reactive? So great exercise to do, great awareness. So thank you for sharing that. So let's just sit and remember, feel the last time you were angry, and go inside. And first of all, welcome the anger, knowing that it's neutral. Knowing that it's neutral and that it's just an energy. And it's not harmful, right? It's here to support you in your evolution in some way. So even if you're able to just achieve that today, welcoming and feeling your anger and knowing that it's okay, knowing that it's not good or bad, right or wrong, is already, as we saw, a jump in your vibration to be able to come to a closer place of neutrality. So as you welcome that, listen to what is underneath and listen to whatever your wish is, your desire, your request. Something wants to shift, something wants to change. What is that? And as you meditate on that, I'm going to play a little song that is going to actually help you understand who you actually are.
If you want to make someone
Right?
contact, you need to stop trying to think.
That's not it. Just stay with your feelings and listen deeply, because your anger wants to be transformed.
We have to get out of our minds. Our thinking minds. I'll tell you how I do it. And using a mantra or phrase. I am loving awareness. 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 Loving awareness.
We all used to do the meditation. If you followed Mr. Saxena, we would do the meditation, I am not my body, I am not my mind. You know that meditation? I would add also, I am not my emotions, and perhaps by mind, that is what is meant. We are not our body, we are not our mind, and we are not our emotions. And so when we become our emotions, such as the lower levels of emotions like guilt and shame and anger, we are not who we truly are. We are not the loving awareness that we truly are. And so when we can shift to just realize that we are not our emotions, we do not have to become them, that they are simply here as an energy to help us shift to a higher vibration. We can actually love our emotions, love whatever is coming up in us, love our anger even. Imagine if you could send love to your anger. Yes, even your anger. Love everything that you truly are. So this concludes my presentation for today, and I'm happy to stay and whether you're on Zoom or whether you're here live today, to take any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you very much. Someone has a hand raised on Zoom, so you could unmute and come and ask your question on Zoom if you like, or you can ask it in the chat. Lori?
I was just wondering about violent anger. Okay, when people act out violently, so the anger is driving them to express an emotion at a person. So I know it's at the other end of the spectrum, but it's
I'm sorry, Lori, I don't hear your question terribly well over the speaker. Maybe you could ask it in the chat. I see it in the chat. So there's a question about violent anger. I'm not sure what the question is, Lori, though. Thank you, Jean, for coming. So one question that comes in is, can sadness be under anger? 100%. sadness can be under anger. 100%. So as I said before in the presentation, anger is often a mask for us not to feel whatever is underneath. And anger protects us from feeling overly sad. Yes. I'm not sure you understand what the art is. So the question is, how do we, from a collective level, work on our feelings and elevate our vibration? And yeah, so the nature of my talk really is the role that relationships play. And so my personal view of this is we can't all become monks and live in a cave and meditate and raise our vibration, right? We have jobs to do, we have children to feed, we have lives to live. And that's why I'm talking to you today, because we all have an opportunity in whatever relationship we're living today to be able to manifest a higher vibration in our relationship. And the way to do that is the way I've tried to explain today, which is to allow ourselves to feel, to see what's underneath, and to see how can we come to neutrality with our emotions, and how can we then even lift and learn to love whatever event has happened, whatever feeling we have. How can we learn to shift? And that can happen every day in every relationship that you have. Any other questions? Yes.
So I guess one of my biggest triggers is, when people go out of their way to hurt you intentionally, or, like do something to oppress you or in any such way. So how can I overcome that and not feel that I'm a victim and, storing for anger, at the same time, I don't feel like, leaving them and just walking away is is an option for me, for example, so how can I deal with these people at the same time? Understanding that, okay, where this other person's coming from is from a different place, and maybe they're not in tune with their emotions, and obviously it's about them and it's not about me. And
Got it. So the question is from the audience, how do I deal with somebody who it feels like they're oppressing me, and how do I not walk away from it? How do I deal with it? How do I not be a victim of it? And so my first question to you would be, what's the feeling? Like, probably there's anger. So what would be the feeling be underneath your anger?
I guess it's just like, okay, they're going out of their way to hurt me. And I don't know if this is like coming from an egoistic standpoint, but for me, it's like, you know, like, why are you, like, why do you want to oppress me kind of thing, you know? So it's-
Right. Right. So your feeling comes from a belief system that they're trying intentionally to hurt you. Right. So the first question to ask would be, is that true? Because maybe the belief system isn't even true. Is it possible?
That's impossible, yeah.
It's possible. Yeah. So that would be the first place I would start, because again, our feelings are driven by our belief systems, which lead to our thoughts, which lead to our feelings. So that would be my first question. Sit with, is that really true? Is my belief that they're really intentionally trying to hurt me true? Yeah. And maybe it is. And then what? Well, not let it go. Allow yourself to feel. Like, again, allow yourself to feel what does it feel like to have somebody actually intentionally trying to hurt me? And if there's anger, what gets to shift in you in order for that not to happen anymore? Sometimes that means cutting somebody out of our life, right? And it means to take the step that the anger is there because this is not a person that I need in my life anymore. They taught me the lesson to respect myself and to cut them out of my life. Sometimes that's the lesson. I don't know in your case if it is or it isn't, but it may be. So first place to check is your belief system. Is what I believe true? And even that might just, like, if you find that settles your nervous system, that, oh my God, maybe that isn't true. Maybe my belief system isn't correct. Already, like, huge progress, right? So there's a question also on Zoom. Is it possible that there are vibrations? I'm not sure that this is worded correctly. There are vibrations may provoke reactions to others. If yes, please talk about it. For sure, there's always interactions between us, right? And if I'm angry and I'm just angry and I walk into a room, somebody could feel that anger. If I'm calm, I might also be able to feel that I'm calm. And my anger may be able to provoke another person's anger. So if I get angry with you, the chances are that it's going to provoke some defensiveness and some argument in you. So yes, definitely my vibration will affect other people's vibrations. So again, super important in you know, you're asking the question about how do we elevate our collective consciousness? Well, we really get to be personally responsible for our own vibrations and where we're coming from and what we're putting into our own space, not only the relational space that exists between us and whoever we're dealing with, but also our own vibrational space. What am I bringing into the room today? Am I clean? Vibrationally. Can my calm affect negatively others? Definitely. It's like I was saying before, you could be happy. You can walk into a space being happy and excited and joyful, and that might upset somebody because they're having a really bad day and they don't want to see somebody who's happy. And it's the same thing with being calm. Like, why are you so calm? Like, how could you be so calm? It can certainly provoke a reaction in another person. So any energy that we come into can have an effect on somebody else. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think with that, we're going to conclude today. And I just, again, want to thank everybody for being here and everybody who's on Zoom and live in person here today. I much appreciate your attention. and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.